The number one selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Hi everyone, I'm Barbara, and this is Age Better. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. And if you're joining in for the first time, well, thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate you. Today we're diving into a topic that feels like a warm, grounding hug in a world that's spinning around faster and faster than ever before. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the pressure to do more, be more, or have more, only to end up feeling stressed, exhausted, or completely disconnected, this episode is your invitation to breathe. We're talking about Lagom, Sweden's secret to happiness, balance, and living the just enough life. And let's be honest, with burnout on the rise, political divides deepening, and social media amplifying our insecurities, the idea of enough feels almost radical. But what if this simple Swedish philosophy could help us rediscover calm, joy, and purpose, especially in midlife, when so many of us are reevaluating what truly matters? I'm thrilled to welcome Kortney Yasenka. She's a licensed clinical mental health counselor and author of the truly delightful new book. It's a little book that's filled with just such wonderful delight. I cannot recommend it enough. It's called Swedish Lagom, Finding Joy in Just Enough. Kortney's work bridges Scandinavian wisdom with practical strategies for modern life in the USA. And today, she'll share how embracing the key principles of Lagom will help you to age better. So stick around because Kortney shares actionable tips you can start using today to live a little more Lagom. And don't forget to check the show notes for links to her truly delightful book. I loved it. I loved it. Okay, everyone, get ready to age better. Hey, Kortney, welcome to Age Better.
Thank you, Barbara. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Oh, I'm so excited about this book. It is an adorable little book.
Thank you.
And we'll get into what Lagom is. Of course, the book is Swedish Lagom, Finding Joy in Just Enough, which I love. I mean, I love that. I love that so much. It's like, oh, we're so overwhelmed by so much that just enough is really very comforting. And so I'm really eager to get started. But this is a great little book, everyone. I really love it. And let's talk about it. So you wrote Swedish Lagom with your mother. So what inspired you both to do this mother-daughter collaboration?
Well, in my practice as a therapist, we talk a lot with my clients about what makes them happy, how they can be less stressed. And it always comes back to finding balance, having joy in just enough, not being overstimulated, not reaching for too much things. And what we found when I was writing it is that all of these healthy living habits and these great coping skills were the Swedish way of living that we've kind of incorporated into our lives ever since we were younger. So I thought it was only fitting to have my mother, who raised us that way, help with her input. So I did the mental health part of it, but hers was really just, this is the Swedish way of living, and this is how we do things. And it's found to be very beneficial to everybody who lives that way. So it was a great opportunity for us.
Great opportunity. And I'm so happy that you shared this with all of us who are not living in Sweden. And your mother isn't either. And my understanding is your father is not Swedish descent, right? And
he is
so,
British.
but he is what?
British. His mother was from England. Yep.
But he embraced this way of life also early on, it sounds like.
Very much so. So we're all Swedish. We're all living the Swedish way.
You're all living the Swedish lifestyle. And really, that's what this is all about, right? As you said to me a few minutes ago before we started recording, is that the point is you don't have to be in Sweden to live the Swedish lifestyle. So this is really great. So the word Lagom, let's talk about that. So I have written down here, translated as just the right amount, just enough. But I sense that there's more to it. So what deeper meaning is there in the word Lagom as it relates to the Swedish philosophy and way of life?
So it's a small word, but it has a huge impact. And I like that it's just enough because it's not overpowering and it doesn't seem too hard for people to accept this concept. And it really is a way of life for Swedish people and anybody who wants to live like a Swede. And it's about finding that balance and moderation in your work-life balance, in relationships, in family time, in rest time, in physical activity. And what's nice about Lagom is that it can be translated into any kind of background, any culture, any family style. And it's what fits best for you.
Yes.
So there's not a one size fits all. It's just really, what would you find the most beneficial in finding this balance and this purpose and this meaningful life? And the just enough part can be different for everybody. So what might be just enough for me is different than what's just enough for you.
Right.
So there's really no right or wrong way of doing it, which is really nice.
And it's all very mindful too. And let's talk about this because I find this fascinating. I love the annual happiness index. Like what country is the happiest country in the world? And Sweden is always on the top of the list. So,
yes.
And Lagom apparently is a very important factor to this happiness and why they're on the top of the happiness list. So what makes this concept so central to Swedish life? And do you really think that we can adopt the Lagom principles to us in the US, where we're so, oh my God, we're all so stressed out?
Yes, and it is a different way of life. But the happiness index, it's always the Nordic and the Scandinavian countries. So there has to be something to it. They're doing something right. And I think as living in America, we have to look at maybe some of Sweden and other Scandinavian policies and the way their government works. But I think even if we don't have control over those things, we have control over how we live our life. And it's really embracing the joy in things and creating joyful experiences for yourself and for your family. And Lagom has certain healthy habits, getting up early, embracing nature. There's a Swedish proverb that says, there's no such thing as bad weather. So it's really embracing everything that your situation has to offer. And I think when you do that and you have those social connections and the togetherness time with your family, you've created a life that you really want. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you find the joy in the little day things and you create that joy. And I think when you do that, you find balance in your life, you find the purpose, and you find meaning. And we know when we have purpose and meaning in our life, we're happier. And happier people live longer too. So it's a win-win.
We do know this. Kortney, you're so right. You brought up a very important point about longevity, and the show is all about aging better. And that one is, it's one of the best things that you can do for yourself to really help yourself to age better, is to find joy in everyday things and to really be mindful about it. And then you talked about healthy habits. And I think that that's a term that Americans can really relate to. That's really kind of stuck in our conversation now, finding healthy habits so that you can age better or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. But let's get right to my audience and what their needs are. So for the most part, my audience are people in midlife. Maybe they're going through transitions, as you very often do in midlife, career changes, relationship changes, kids are leaving or have left, empty nesting, aging parents, maybe you still have kids living at home, but they're adults, so on and so forth. There's a lot going on in midlife. So how do you think Lagom's approach can really help people who are in midlife with a lot of these transitions?
With Lagom too, it gives you an opportunity to find balance in every phase of your life and prioritize certain things and figure out what works for you. And in different phases, you have different priorities. And a lot of that goes back to knowing when to ask for help, knowing what you can do, what you can't do. And even in the things that you don't necessarily like to do or the stressful things, you find the joy in that. And I think with Lagom too, when you've fostered those connections of what I call togetherness time with family, it makes going through the different stages of your life easier because you have that support system and you have everybody there with you and you have that good, strong bond. So you're not going through it alone at all. And like I said, it's that finding what works for you, and your purpose can change, but it's all about knowing what you need when you need it and having the people that are most important to you, they're going through it with you.
And very often people in midlife are feeling so pulled in so many directions, again, aging parents and everything else that's going on. Sometimes you want to say no to something, but you feel guilty about it because you know that maybe they need you. And so many people do, especially women in midlife, right? Always. And so how does Lagom help you kind of navigate that guilt if you really do want to start to say no a little bit more?
And I think sometimes saying no is okay because it's saying yes to yourself. But I think with Lagom and Swedish living, you have a commitment or duty or whatever you want to call it to your family, but it doesn't feel that way because you've made those connections. Your mother or father or two moms or two dads raised you. So when you're older, you don't feel like it's a burden. It's really an opportunity for another connection. And I know when my so my grandmother moved in with my mom and dad and was there until she died. And it was a different opportunity and a different way to connect with somebody. But I know it was stressful for my mom, caring for a dying parent is extremely stressful.
Yes.
So the Lagom lifestyle helped because we all helped with the balance and those healthy habits where it's make sure you get up early so you have your alone time before the hustle and bustle of the day starts. Go for a walk when you need it. And when you have more balance in your life, you feel better, which makes you a better helper or caretaker for somebody else.
Yes.
Because you can't do 100% of everything 100% of the time.
No. So that's where the just enough comes in. And also, as you mentioned before, and it's clear now in this example, is that ask for help. I mean, right. I think this principle means that you don't have to do it completely on your own. That's the whole point. It's a lot of collaboration involved with the Lagom lifestyle, it sounds like. So there's a point in midlife, maybe it happens to people at different times, I don't know, but when all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, time is not infinite, time is finite. And so you really want to make the best use of every moment that you have. And this is important. So how do you think the Lagom's just enough philosophy really kind of helps to get rid of some of that anxiety around realizing like, hey, I don't have forever. And instead make it a little bit more freeing?
I think your view of aging and death and knowing that you don't have forever, I think helps you appreciate the moment that you're in and the everyday moments. And I think Lagom helps with creating a lot of different family traditions. And with traditions comes different memories and knowing that maybe if you're not going to be here or your mom won't be here, the memory lives on through those things. And that's what we found that, even now, if we're baking for Christmas and making our Swedish coffee bread. We have my Mormor's recipes and handwritten recipes that we made into a book. So it's almost like she's still here with us. And that's getting passed down to my nieces. So it's a nice way of remembering everything and feeling connected and feeling like even though someone might not be here with us, they're always going to be in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of makes that whole aging process better. And I think you realize you're so thankful for the time that you had with them. And I think Lagom does a lot with appreciation and gratitude.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed reading that part. You just mentioned the coffee bread and your Mormor, if I'm saying it correctly, and her recipe handwritten. I read all of that and it was so charming.
Mm-hmm.
And also made me smile because my own grandmother, who came from Germany and brought with her so many different recipes and again, also ways of life that she brought to her family in America. And I was raised by her, actually. And my sister and I lived with my grandparents as I was growing up. So I was very fortunate. But so it was really a touching thing for me to read, and I totally related to it. But let's talk about America again. Like, we are just a country of extremes and go, and extreme fitness and extreme productivity and extreme work ethic. Everything is to the extreme. And that's just how we are and always have been, and success and all that. And so what if you're trying to find this balance? Like if someone says, I am going to buy this book, I am going to get Swedish Lagom, and I'm going to follow the principles and find balance, and just enough is going to be good enough for me. And then how do you navigate that when you're kind of going up against the tide of this culture that we have, that we're living in?
Yeah. And I think it can be difficult. And I think you have to use a lot of self-reflection and think, okay, but what's the life I want to create for myself? And with Swedish living in Lagom, it doesn't mean that you can't be ambitious and have all these goals and success. It's just, how do you define that success? And even so, Swedish people, we have this thing called fika, and it's like a coffee break, but it's more than coffee and sweet treats. It's about reconnecting, and it happens throughout the workday. And even the biggest corporations in Sweden break for fika every day. So they appreciate that. And I know it's very different than a coffee break in America, where you're just, chugging down your coffee to get your caffeine fix. But I think when more people want to live a certain way, it's going to happen. And if you can't do that as a company or a corporation, you can find that kind of reset within yourself. And it is kind of prioritizing. And I think what people need to realize is the more you find that balance, the more productive you're going to be. So it's almost like with meditation, right? Sometimes my clients will be like, I don't have 5 minutes or 10 minutes to meditate.
Right.
But if you took that 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you set yourself up for a very different mindset and a very different day.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's that prioritizing and realizing that you don't have to conquer everything. So there's a Swedish term for open air living, outdoor living. It's friluftsliv. It's a Nordic term, but the Swedish have kind of taken on. And the difference is that you just want to be in nature and appreciate it and experience it. You don't need to conquer nature. It's not like, I'm going to go for this 20-mile hike and do all this great things. It's just being in there. And I think that's the mindset we need to have, where it's just, you enjoy your current moment. It doesn't mean that you have to go on vacation to enjoy your life, or you have to do all of this stuff, or it's just enjoying what you have.
Like you could have a vacation mindset every day.
Exactly.
In that respect.
You create the life that you want. And I think the more people that subscribe to that mindset, the better our culture will be, because people are realizing that whatever the common phrase is, you can, people when they're dying never say, I wish I worked more, or I wish I had more of this. It's, you wish you had more time, or that you enjoyed life more. And I think we can do that if we live Lagom and incorporate some of those Swedish philosophies into our daily life.
So you mentioned a minute ago about your own clients. So, you're a counselor, you're a therapist. So do you find that you use these principles when you're talking to people to try to help them solve some of their problems?
I do. And I think I used them even before I knew it was like the Swedish way of living. But I've had some clients who we talk about decluttering. Swedish people love to clean,
Oh,
and they have a
yeah.
thing called Swedish death cleaning.
Oh, yeah. I had a whole episode on that once already.
Yep. And having fresh flowers in the house and creating a cozy environment for you, at home. So I have clients now that say, I put in a couple new hanging plants and it just feels so much better.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, those little things can make a huge difference, and anyone can do them. Even if you don't have a family background of a lot of traditions, you can create your own traditions. You can create your own family moments or solo moments of this is what I do to find balance throughout the day. And it might be, we have a term mys, which is like cozy. And it's kind of the Swedish version of hygge.
Yes.
So maybe it's you curl up in a blanket and you watch a show or you have some hot tea or wine, but you enjoy that moment. And I know it sounds very simple, and it is,
And it is.
but that's what you have to do. You want to create the life that you want, and that gives you purpose and meaning. And it's going to help you live a better life for yourself and everyone around you.
Yeah. And it is so simple. That's like sometimes you go, well, it's a little too simple to really work, right? But no, actually, the less is more approach. So let's talk about digital overload, which I think we all may sometimes feel. I know I do, like so much online, and I know I'm not alone. So what Lagom inspired approaches have you found that have really helped you, maybe even your clients and others in your family, to have a better relationship with technology without really kind of giving it up completely?
I think if you kind of live that well-rounded Lagom life, you have other things that are going to interest you. And we work with kids a lot too on this, that if they have hobbies, if they like to go outside, they're not going to be attached to their phones. And again, everything in moderation is okay. But I think you'll realize too, when you use that self-reflection, if I'm on my phone a lot or doing things, it's like, oh, I just don't feel great. Like I just need a break from things. And that's when you reconnect with nature. You have fika with somebody. You do other things, or you enjoy the cozy Friday nights with your family, and you won't want to.
Another thing I really enjoyed reading about those Friday, because we did something like my husband and I raised our two daughters who are now in their late 20s. Really, in a lot of the ways that you describe in your book, which made me feel very happy and like I'm already sort of kind of adopting some of the important principles. But yeah, that all makes sense to me, all of it. And now I want to kind of gear back to something you talked about before, and that was the Swedish death cleaning. And where, because we acquire things throughout our lives,
A lot of things.
too much stuff, especially if your kids leave at some point and leave all their stuff with you too, which is
Right.
usually what happens. And so by the time you get into midlife, you've got stuff, too much stuff. So there is that kind of minimalist approach that Marie Kondo popularized. And then you've got many, many other ways of doing it, of course. And so how does Lagom deal with that? What advice would you give?
Again, it is like a minimalistic mindset, and it's buying quality and a lot of sustainable items. And the items you have in your home, even the decor, should be meaningful and should bring you joy. And it's nice because a lot of the Swedish decor that I have been passed down from, generation to generation. So it does mean something. You're not just buying things to buy things.
Right.
And that helps. You want to keep the things that mean more to you than just having a lot of stuff that goes, in and out of style. And if you have less clutter in your house or your home, you're going to have a less cluttered brain, which is going to help you find that balance too. So again, it's just like you just need just enough. And again, that can be different for everybody, but it's finding what works for you and making sure you're not overwhelmed by your things, even with different patterns and fabrics. The decor is meant to soothe you and relax you, not overwhelm you.
Such good advice. And I know for me, I took the episode that I did, it was about a year or two ago, on the Swedish death cleaning. And I said, I've got to do this because
Mm-hmm.
at some point, I have hit that point in midlife where I realize, oh, wow, I don't have forever,
Right.
like what we were saying before. And so I don't want to leave my kids with stuff that
Mm-hmm.
they have no interest in.
Right.
I've really taken this to heart. So I have been since then methodically taking care of a lot of those things that I've kind of held on to and realized that there are quite a few of them I don't really
Right.
need to hold on to anymore. So a lot of things fascinate me about Lagom, of course, and your wonderful book. But one of them is that this is really a collective. I mean, you've been kind of saying this all along in our conversation, but there's like a collectiveness to Lagom. Like you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's a unit. You all depend on each other. It's collaborative.
Right.
And that's really, really important. So how might this perspective, I mean, we've been talking about how it's helping individuals, like how will it help me in midlife as I transition, blah, blah, blah. But like, let's talk about the bigger community. So how will this help people to connect or even reconnect in their own communities?
So Lagom, one of the lifestyles too, is community involvement. And they have a term, it's called Jantelagin, and it means roughly, no one's better than anyone else, but in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's a community and we all work to give back, to volunteer. We grew up doing that, and it's good togetherness time and family time you spend helping others. And it also, we know, giving back and volunteering helps people find a purpose in life, which can also help with the aging process.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a good thing to do, and it connects you to other people too.
Yeah. I mean, in my own neighborhood, I go back and forth between New York and Virginia. And in Virginia, I've just recently started a walking club. I'm a runner. I like to run too and do other things, strength training and whatnot. But we started a walking club, and it was specifically to raise awareness of bone health as you get older. And walking is a weight bearing exercise, but also to be outside. You referenced that also as a very important aspect of life. And also to build community, to have our neighbors come out and talk with each other for an hour every Saturday morning. And so far, so good. It's a wonderful thing. And I'm very, very happy about it. And it makes me feel good, and everyone's really excited about it. That's like a very good example, I think, of a Lagom approach to community building. So that's fun. Looking ahead, how do you see Lagom principles helping people? Let's get back to people in midlife who are, say, transitioning out of the workforce into retirement. I mean, they're truly going to retire from work. That doesn't mean they're retiring from life. So how does Lagom help them with this very big transition?
I think it helps with the transitions, knowing that you can have that different mindset and do different things. So like you said, you're not retiring from life. So maybe the retirement gives you an opportunity to find joy in other things that you weren't able to when you were working. Like we talked about the priorities and balance, and this is the time to enjoy other aspects of your life and even a slower paced life, and finding joy in your morning walks or watching birds or baking or starting a nonprofit, whatever you want to do. I think it gives you the opportunity to find what you want, what's going to bring you joy and purpose and meaning. And when we talk about finding purpose, I think sometimes people think it has to be this huge undertaking and it has to make a world of difference. No, your purpose could be raising your children. I think that's one of the best purposes you can have in life. Or your purpose could be, I get up and I feed my dog, or I walk around the block and I say hello to my neighbors. That's fine. But it's finding something that matters to you. And I think in retirement, a lot of people realize maybe their life has been missing a little something or a little joy, and it gives them the opportunity to have that maybe slower pace. Sometimes people are more, are busier after retirement, but just to look at things differently.
A different lens.
Right. And maybe
A
you're not able
Lagom
to.
lens.
Oh, I like that. And maybe you're not able to do certain things anymore, but then you adjust to the situation and you make it beneficial to you. And again, you find that balance, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. In fact, I think that there are opportunities to find that true balance in retirement than before, very possibly. But all right, so I'm really curious also about the bigger picture, kind of going beyond the individual, as we've covered, and also the community and family, which we talked about, but the world. I mean, right now, I think a lot of people are stressed, certainly in America, but I think really around the world about a lot of things, climate change and health issues and conflicts
Everything.
between countries. And so war, obviously. And so how can Lagom really help us to kind of cope and think about this? And maybe even how could the world leaders adopt Lagom? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, it would be nice. Well, I think it goes back to, a sense of community and sustainability and seeing it as a whole, that it's not just one country here and one country there, that we have one world. And even the things that we use and our impact on that world is going to affect everybody. And I think that Swedish way of living, Lagom, isn't a selfish philosophy, and it takes into consideration the bigger picture. And I think when people realize they have just enough, they're not fighting over certain things or needing to be the best at everything or have the biggest whatever. I think it's more of a sense of community and that we're all in this together and we can find our joy and balance with other people.
And also, I think prioritizing together, like, is a cleaner world and a world that will leave better for the next generation a priority. It certainly is for me. And I feel like that's a very Lagom view of the future. And I wish everyone would adopt it. So, Kortney, great conversation. What final message would you like to leave for our listeners who are kind of embracing, they're going to go out, they're going to run out, they're going to check out the show notes, everyone. The link to the book and more information about Kortney in the show notes. Check out this really delightful book. And if you have any other parents or grandparents or great-grandparents who are from Europe, I think, the old country, as they call it, like my grandmother, you will find so many points in this book that will make you go, oh yeah, yep, I so get that. Yep. And your heartstrings will be pulled a little bit like it did with mine. And so what message for people in midlife to really take from what they might feel is a crisis, maybe a midlife crisis, to a life of joy and meaning?
I think the most important thing is that you don't have to be Swedish to live Lagom. And it's never too late to find your joy and to find that balance. And it starts with very small daily habits that anyone can do. And I think they'll realize that once they create different routines, they'll have that purpose, that meaning, the balance, and they'll feel less stressed, less anxious, and just overall be happier and live a more fulfilled life and just find joy, in just enough. And then everyday interactions with people and situations. Like I said, it's a small word, but it has a huge impact.
Has a huge impact. And again, I think one of the biggest messages and takeaways I got from this book is others, that you are not alone, that the whole Lagom philosophy is one, as we mentioned, of collaboration and family and unit. And if family is not nearby, neighbors, community. And that's a very important aspect of the Lagom philosophy. And it also, as it turns out, is an incredibly important and powerful part of aging better. And we know that from many, many, many studies. So, Kortney, thank you for writing. And thank your mom, too, by the way. Thank you for writing this delightful book, Swedish Lagom. Definitely highly recommended, everyone. And I really appreciate the time you spent with us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I had a great time.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Age Better Podcast, please do a few things. First, share it with all your friends and family. Then, subscribe to Age Better wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Finally, if you have ideas for topics you want me to cover in a future episode of Age Better, send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com or reach out to me on social media. Until next time, remember this: we can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.